Welcome back to another episode of Straight Facts. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you're subscribing to the Football Terrace as well. Big Steve here with me today rather than Lee Gunner, because Steve is off to Istanbul for a little holiday or break. What are you going away for to Istanbul?
Bit of sightseeing, a few kebabs. You know what I mean? Might have a Turkish bath.
Little Turkish shave as well. They've got the best barbers out there as well.
Yeah, a bit of a shave. You know what I mean? Yeah. Big game, though, to attend. So, yeah. Unfinished business.
Absolutely, mate. And we'll get into that a little bit later on the show, everybody. So make sure you stay with us. Lots to talk about as well. Arsenal transfers, Caicedo updates. Gabri Veiga to Chelsea bid, supposedly coming in. More reports on Min-Jae we want to touch on as well. Plus the updates on Gundogan. Is he going to join Arsenal and leave Man City after what was another spellbinding and brilliant performance at the weekend from him? But I wanted to start off really with some breaking news that look, I think it's responsible for us to talk about it because we've touched on these things before. But there's some allegations that have risen against Antony this afternoon that have come out. And I want to read this word for word. It's come from a Brazilian publication, very big publication, 6.4 million followers, via Sports Witness, who have kind of translated it into English and stated that a lady who is in a relationship with Antony has filed a police report in Sao Paulo, Brazil on Monday, so yesterday, the 5th of June. She claims that on the 20th of May, she was assaulted by the Man United player. At the time, as we know, Antony was in England. There's no clarification right now as to whether she is saying that the incident happened in England or if it happened elsewhere. But huge fallout, trending news already. I'm seeing a lot of people condemning Antony straight away. Scumbag, sell him. What's wrong with Man United players? That sort of jazz. When it comes to these kind of stories coming out with limited information, what's your personal reaction to them in terms of how you think people should treat the stories, as an example?
Well, listen, we all know that the press are not whiter than white. We know that they'll do anything for a story. So I just urge everyone to just relax. At the end of the day, it's, it could be nonsense, could be true. We don't know. We've had some big cases in this country recently, Greenwood, Ryan Giggs, things like that. And it's like, you just got to relax. You don't know if it's true. We don't know the ins and outs of it. And we're football fans at the end of the day. I know there's a lot of people on these platforms think they're lawyers, especially when Man City's concerned and we're already guilty, 115 charges. I know they all think they're lawyers, but you're not a lawyer. You're not a criminal lawyer. You ain't got a clue. You're reading a story from a publication that could just be doing it for hype or whatever. You just don't know. But I urge everyone to relax. Manchester United are not stupid. Antony will have his people on it. They'll have their people on it. These allegations about footballers coming out from all over the Premier League, what they're doing. Some of them are still playing with alleged people already making them guilty about stuff. So I don't believe in all that. I just, until it happens, you know what I mean? If something happens, like with Greenwood and that, when he got charged and then he's innocent and all this, I don't know. It's just a bit murky. I think we just got to stick to football. Stick to football, stick to facts, and go from there. Half of the fan base are going to say he's guilty. Half of the fan base are going to defend him because they love him, and no one's got a clue, to be honest. So
this is absolutely. I think what I find really sickening about these situations, I think the Greenwood situation was very different because of the evidence that was put out there online. And we heard things, we heard the voice note, we saw pictures, so you're able to make your mind up. But this report, firstly, it's been translated from one language to another. How many times do we see things slightly lost in translation? Secondly, the most important bit of information now to clarify is whether or not she's claiming the incident happened in the UK or not. If she states that it happened in Brazil, unless he traveled from Bournemouth, where he played at 4, 5, 6 in the evening, was in Bournemouth and got to Brazil within 3 or 4 hours, and it all happened, and he flew back to Manchester again, then it's going to be very difficult to put him into that situation. And I always look at these situations the same way. The alleged perpetrator has to be treated as innocent until proven guilty. So the crazy claims I'm seeing from people online, the names they're calling him, the pejoratives they're using, that needs to stop because he is innocent until he's proven guilty. Secondly, the police have to investigate this thoroughly. There has to be a full and frank investigation because the alleged victim has to be taken seriously in these circumstances. I just don't understand why there isn't balance from people. But that's just me. Maybe it's a 37-year-old man looking at this. What you see straight away is I've had it in the comment section before we went live. Oh, Terry, looks bad for your club. Looks bad for your player. But how do you know it looks bad? You don't know the circumstances yet. At the end of the day, for me, I'm going to wait. I said this a couple of years ago when this happened. A similar thing happened to Callum Hudson-Odoi. Sat on a stream after stream trying to condemn him and rip into him. I said, let's wait and see what happens. 12 hours later, nothing to see here. No issue, whatever. Did nothing wrong. We all move on. So I agree with you completely. Stick to football, or at least reserve your judgment until the facts of the matter are revealed. Because right now, nobody knows very much at all. There's a lot of speculation, and the fact people are condemning people, and in both directions, by the way. Some people are having a go at her. Some people are having a go at him. When you don't know anything, keep your powder dry. Stop judging people without any information, and get back to the football. That's the thing for me. That's the thing for me with all the situation that's key, really. But yeah, it's not a good thing. I hope the police take it very, very seriously to make sure nothing has happened. But yeah, the way people are out and behaving online these days, I find it a madness, brother. I really do.
Crazy, mate. Crazy. Sure, there'll be more bits added to the story as we get along this week.
Yeah, I'm sure there will be. I'm sure there will be more things added. Viewers, anything listen, leave us your comments below. Let us know what you think, what you feel in relation to this situation indeed. Terry, innocent until proven guilty. Funny that Greenwood got cleared, but still you wrote him off. Like I've said, my friend, I've heard things and I've seen things. And until I get clarity on that changes my mind will not change. Sarim here says it doesn't matter if he's guilty or not. He's guilty by fans so they can point score. But that's all it comes down to is point scoring. You know, honest to God, it's all it comes down to is point scoring. I listened to Valuetainment. I don't know if you watched their podcast, really, really good. They were talking about when Andrew Tate was arrested. And they were showing clips of people that were like, I want him to be guilty. And it's like, so you want him to have committed those atrocities. My view is always, I hope the person's innocent because it means there hasn't been a victim at the end of it. And that's the warped nature for me. Like, I hope all the people that get accused are innocent because I hope that the heinous incident hasn't occurred. And I just don't understand people's mindset. They almost want it to happen so they can banter your football club with it, which I find to be a very strange way to think and feel, really. But yeah, very, very much to me. Viewers, make sure you hit the like and the share button. Make sure you are subscribing to the channel. I wanted to get your take really on the situation with Chelsea, because we know what happened with Ugarte. They pulled out. Reportedly, PSG blowing them out the water transfer wise. They're linked today with a move, and I want to get his name out. It's Mauricio Pochettino is pushing for Gabri Veiga, I think it's pronounced, who has a £34 million release clause. Chelsea are prepared to push hard for him, according to Jacob Steinbeck. Chelsea really feel like they're hitting this transfer window hard to try and catch people and push themselves back into a top four, maybe even a title race next season, Steve.
Listen, that kid's agent's doing a great job. He scored a couple against Barca the other night. He was supposed to sign with Guardiola's brother as an agent, and he ended up going with Zerbi. Fabrizio Romano mentioned it, so he's obviously been tapped up by his agent to get his name out there. Everybody knows the release clause. Same thing, just gets everyone giddy and excited end of the season. He looks a good little player, but I mean, Chelsea, I take it with a pinch of salt who Chelsea are going to buy now, because nobody cares, because they can buy whoever they want. You know what I mean? They can get whoever they want in, but it's a big mess there. I've said it before. You know, they've got £130 million midfielders hanging about there. So why do they need another one for 34? It just says a load of nonsense to me, I'll be honest.
I mean, I get where you're coming from. I think the issue is they're going to get rid of a lot of people. You know, Kai Havertz today has told Chelsea he wants to leave. He wants this Real Madrid move. Mason Mount is seemingly on his way out. Kante looks like he might be going to Saudi Arabia. Kovacic is on his way to Man City. He's off to your boys. Loftus-Cheek, it looks like he's going AC Milan. That's 5 midfielders gone. Who do they have left after that to play in midfield? Almost they have to buy 2 or 3 midfielders if those 5 go, surely.
Yeah, they do. They do. They need a rebuild there, like you say. It all seemed a bit rushed this season, throwing money around, and it didn't get them anywhere, to be honest. Look where they finished this season. If they can shift that amount of players out, then fair play. Then get some money back in, freshen up the squad. Then he might well be one of them who they're looking after. But I've seen that kid's name linked with everyone: Paris Saint-Germain, Man City. You know, everyone's been linked with him. So, but Chelsea, I don't know. I look at the team and I don't know. I think they've got to clear before they buy. And some of them names you said, you know, if they can get rid of them like you're talking, then they've done well. Because Kai Havertz going to Real Madrid, I don't know where that's came from. Because could you see him at Real Madrid?
Look, for me, it's I don't rate Kai Havertz. I don't think he's that good. But what's being said now by Chelsea fans and sort of the kind of Madridsters online is that Chelsea have been misprofiling Kai Havertz and been playing him in the wrong position with the wrong role, and there's still a top-class player in there. What's your take on that?
I don't know. I mean, before he signed for Chelsea, he was definitely a player. Everyone was looking at him and he looked great. Do you know what I mean? I just think he flatters to deceive. Sometimes I see him and he seems to get in the right positions at the right time, but there's no end product from him. It's definitely, you know, he'll go down and be remembered because he scored the winner in the European Cup final. So, but other than that, an overall performance for Chelsea, I don't think anyone's going to even ask that he's leaving. So, but it was just a bit of a shock. I don't know, Real Madrid, maybe they see him different to me, but I just don't put him at Real Madrid.
Yeah, I mean, I again, it was one of those transfers, mate, that I saw and thought, really? I couldn't quite believe it. We obviously understand that. Wow, Fabrizio Romano was just tweeted about it. So I'm just checking it's the real one. Sometimes you get caught out by fake accounts. Fabrizio Romano here says, fair to say Chelsea and Kai Havertz are on the same page. Club prepared to let him go, whilst Havertz is open to trying a new chapter elsewhere. Chelsea hope more clubs join the race in the next few days after Real Madrid registered an interest last week. That's also been followed up by Jacob Steinberg, very credible journalist at The Guardian, who says that Kai Havertz tells Chelsea he wants to leave and is understood Chelsea are demanding as much as £75 million for him. And then it goes on to then say that there's another claim here that Bayern Munich are also admirers on him, but Real Madrid are going to push hard. So, I mean, if they end up raising anywhere near 70-odd million pounds for Kai Havertz, I mean, that would be sensational business, in my opinion, for a player that has looked amateur for about 18 months, 2 years.
No, it is. It's great business, but they need to raise money. They need to go high because the money they've been spending on everyone else, you know what I mean? It's just ridiculous. But listen, they've got to drag that money back in. They've got to reset. It didn't work. The big spending spree didn't work. They've got to get rid of the deadwood. And like you say, trying to cut deadwood, nobody wants deadwood. You know what I mean? It looks like Kante might be going to the Middle East somewhere. Mason Mount to Man United baffles me again. You know, is Mason Mount the answer at Man United? I don't think so. But I don't know. I just don't know. Seems a mad window. Doesn't seem to be an awful lot floating about in this window. And I think the real quality ones are going to be too high. I think there's going to be a lot of players, mediocre players, who are going to get big moves and going to be on big money in places, and they don't deserve it to me.
From your point of view, what doesn't make sense about the Mason Mount deal? Is it just that you don't think he's a good enough football player, or he doesn't suit Ten Hag's style of play? Like, what do you think?
I just don't see where or what he does at Man United. I don't see what he does. I've seen him at Chelsea, and yeah, he started okay and he came in and they had that season. They won the Champions League under Tuchel and that. But since then, he's gone downhill. He doesn't show me anything for England, doesn't show anything for Chelsea. Chelsea fans don't seem overly arsed that he's leaving because, yeah, he's one of their own. I think that's the only bit of attachment they've got to him. But would you say Mason Mount's one of the top midfielders in the Premier League? No. And if Man United want to be challenging Man City for the title or want to be getting in, higher end of the Champions League, you need to be looking at better players than Mason Mount.
I agree. So I agree with the last statement there 100%. We need to be looking at better. And we are. if the reports are to be believed, what United are looking to do is very much Mount as part of a midfield rebuild, but we're looking at someone bigger and better. There are, of course, Harry Kane is going to be a big focal point. There's Højlund that we're looking at, the really young Danish guy that's currently playing at Atalanta. If he's the main midfield signing and we drop 70, 80 million on him, like Fabrizio Romano says Chelsea are demanding, I got massive concerns with that because I do think I've said it on 100 shows now, he's better than Fred, better than McTominay, better than Donny. And he raises the ceiling from a backup point of view. But he's not better than Bruno Fernandes as an attacking midfielder. He's nowhere near the level of a Casemiro sitting in the middle. He's got good energy in comparison to those guys. We need more around him. I think he could be a good squad player, good rotation player for Man United. But again, not at 70 to 80 million. It's ridiculous amount of money, in my opinion. Ridiculous amount of money for somebody such as him. But it's going to be.
What do United need? What kind of player do they need? A number 10, a playmaker? What they're trying to achieve by him? Because they got Christian Eriksen there, who's not done it. To be fair, he's not cut it.
Well, I think Eriksen, you're right. Listen, Eriksen is fine when he's playing against the lesser teams. The problem Eriksen has is when you go up against City, were a great example of the cup final at the weekend. Technically on the ball, he's as good as not everybody on the pitch, but he's very, very good. The problem is John Stones and Rodri, physically, so they're stronger than him and they're faster than him, and he can't cope. So Man United need somebody with better ball playing ability than the Freds and the McTominays, but who's also got the energy. Man United's problem with our midfield is, barring Casemiro, they've all got an attribute that's needed, but they're not a full package. So they don't have good ability on the ball plus good physicality. Mason Mount is better than our current backups on physicality stroke ability. What we need, though, is a Caicedo. What we need is a Declan Rice. What we need is a...
You can't pay 70 million for a backup, though, can you?
No, I agree. And that's where I agree with you 100%. That's why...
You're better off going and getting James Maddison for 40 million from Leicester, who's a better player, in my opinion.
What, James Maddison... My only issue with James Maddison is his injury record. Again, but I don't want to be buying players that spend a lot of time out. But I agree with you. I think he's top class. James Maddison, as an attacking midfield point of view, he's better than Mason Mount. I totally agree with you. And
there's no other team in the world paying 70 million for Mason Mount.
No, there ain't. And Man United shouldn't do it either. And I think that a lot of people go, "Oh, don't be an accountant. It's not my money." Well, you should care about how much money your club's spending, because if you overspend on your players, what happened to Man United in January will repeat itself. You'll be in a good position, but you'll need to strengthen an area, but you'll have no money left to do it. So we have to be prudent. We have to spend wisely. I don't think Mount is a disgusting, terrible, worst signing ever. If it's at a sensible price, 40, 45, 50 million, you start going above 60. And I think you're eating into the budget for other players and not moving that ceiling high enough. I totally agree that we need to be focusing on better individuals. And, Chelsea, they're looking at Caicedo, who I think is a player, but Chelsea themselves, Brighton have come out today. And said, I want to make sure I quote this right when I say it. I want to make sure I read this correct again, that Brighton are going to demand more than 80 million pounds now from Chelsea and Arsenal that are looking at him to bring him into the football club. Is that more? I know you said Chelsea are a mess, have got to clear people out, but do you think like a player like Caicedo is worth the 70, 80, 90 million that he might that he might command? Do you think he'll be able to raise that ceiling enough at Chelsea or at Arsenal if he joins?
The thing is, I don't think he's worth that amount of money. No, but Brighton are in a great position. They're in a strong position with him. They've got European football. They've got a new, energetic young manager. Things are happening at Brighton, so they're not going to get bullied by these teams over their best players. And if they see Chelsea going out and spending 130 on Fernandes, they're probably thinking, hold on a minute. If you could spend 130 on him, you're giving us 80, 85 for him. Simple as that. And this is where the market gets distorted on certain things. You know what I mean? If he's got Caicedo's got a release clause of 100 million and somebody goes and meets it, then that's because they think down the line he's going to be worth more than that. Let's activate it now before he starts setting the world on fire. And they're going to do it. But I don't know. I think Arsenal might end up dipping in there and trying to grab him. But where does that leave, Arsenal's rest of the budget? where do they leave that? It's all right grabbing Caicedo and thinking that's it. I don't think it's it. Looking at Arsenal this season, the way they tailed off near the end, they're not. They need more than that.
Look, how much a player's worth, it often depends upon, the expression like beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And if you rate a player, you're going to think they're worth a lot more than someone that doesn't quite rate somebody. I think Caicedo probably is worth about 80 million if he goes to a club and delivers. So when Chelsea and City were looking at paying 50, 60 million for Cucurella, there weren't very many people that said that's overpriced because he was brilliant at Brighton. And if he went to either club and performed how he did at Brighton and maybe up at even higher level because he was with better players, nobody would have looked at that price tag. Basuma, when he went to Chelsea, what did he go for? 25, 30 million? It was quite cheap. That was looked at as, Tottenham. That was looked at as such a bargain because of how good he was at Brighton. Now it looks like they overpaid for him because he was so poor. Richarlison, similar, 60 million. Some people are like, wow, he's going to kill it there. Didn't. So now it looks like a really expensive player. No one's currently talking about Jack Grealish's price tag because the last 4 or 5 months, he's stepped up to that 100 million level. So it all depends on how they deliver, I think. But there's a comment here that I want to look at from Craig Lee, who's a Newcastle fan. He says, who aren't Chelsea looking at? 600 million wasted, and they're still buying midfielders. But they haven't wasted the whole 600 million. They've wasted some of it, but they haven't wasted all of it yet because the likes of Enzo, Mahalo, Mudryk, Madueke as an example, Badashil, to name just a few, they've still got time to turn this round. And I think that I understand that, and Todd Miller, one of our members here, says it, 600 million was spent on a lot of future talent. And I think that that's key here for Chelsea. A lot of it is future talent. But to Craig, to answer you, they're going to be getting rid of most of their midfield this summer. So they have to go and buy new people. Otherwise, they won't have a team. We have to be, I know we all like to banter each other, but there has to be an element of fairness when it comes to this. But I think Caicedo is going to be a very interesting signing in the summer. Husam here, a different Husam, not our Husam, says Veiga wants Liverpool and to play with Klopp.
It sounds like our Husam.
It does. That debate with you and him last week was magical. The comments were so split as well. Some like, Sam schooled him. A lot of the others said you schooled him. And I just love sitting there for 20 minutes saying nothing. Honestly.
What makes me laugh, yeah? People say that I'm rattled, right? But I've never been rattled in my life. The thing is, I'm passionate. And when you're invested in a football team week in and week out, you can show passion because you're invested in it. You go week in, you go week out and all that. If you've not got no emotional attachment to a team, yeah, and you don't go to the games and you don't go there every week and you don't feel that, you can sit there and be motionless and calm because you're not invested in it. And that's what people know, innit? Nobody schooled me. Nobody schooled me. I hit him with the biggest facts you ever known. The bedroom army, as I'm like to call him now. Husam's bedroom army might think he schooled me, but anyone with half a footballing brain just laughs. The amount of messages I got over that was clearly, but it is what it is. I like Husam. He's a good guy, and he likes to press people's buttons, and I've got to give him credit for that because I respect him. And I speak to him a lot on the DMs and that, and I enjoyed it. It was different. There was no animosity there. We're just trying to defend my club against somebody. Like I told you, I defended my club against Goldbridge for calling him out for being plastic when he's plastic. And, Husam said we were fake when he's fake. So it's just the same.
Listen, I feel like the arguments were really interesting last week because I kind of agreed with some of the things that you said and some of the things he said. And that's not me sitting on the fence. But we got away from kind of the thing for me. The only thing I really disagreed with is that if you're proven to be cheats, we'll have that conversation. But if your success because you've got owners who are essentially, and Sam obviously, I would say, has a better understanding of the Middle East goings on than any of us. He's actually from that region of the world. So you've got no one that don't live in Manchester is going to tell you about how Manchester works on a real level. Do you know what I'm saying? You live there. You know how, forget what the papers say or other people, you know it, you're there, you understand it more than anybody. So Sam obviously gets that credit for that and credibility. I mean, but the notion that because your money comes from state-funded billionaires, the success is irrelevant. But if Man United get it, or Liverpool get it, or Arsenal get it, because they've been successful prior, that suddenly means what they win in the future. Even if it's exponentially more than they win now, that's all celebrated because you had history prior. That's the only bit I didn't agree with.
When you break that down, yeah, that just sounds like jealousy, doesn't it? If somebody's making that example, that sounds like jealousy. The only thing I'm going to say is this, yeah. Manchester City Football Club are currently making history. Them football clubs you just named are clinging on to history. And that is the big difference in football right now. And until they get that mindset and realise that, then they're going to be at a standstill, because there's only one team at the minute that's going up, on and off the pitch. You see it today. The most valuable football club in the world, yeah? That's by Forbes magazine. So you tell me, you tell me that Forbes magazine now, is that an Arab run magazine? Did they make that up because, you know, the City of Plastic? But no. But listen, you don't want to listen to that. That's another story.
On a real light level, though, I'm not surprised you're the most valuable, though, because what your owners have done, and this is what people have got to look like, most of that is the land you bought. So it's the land you bought and the clubs around the world you bought. So when you buy the clubs, you own the stadiums, you own the training grounds and the land surrounding them typically. So when City as a group owns 7, 8 clubs, when you look at 14, sorry. If you look at the land and the infrastructure just around the Etihad, if you just look at the square mileage of land they own, that's why the valuation continues to grow. So yeah, I'm not surprised the most valuable. You know, it is.
The bedroom boys won't know that. They'll just say, how can Manchester City earn more than Real Madrid? And how can this is what because they don't have a clue. This is what I'm saying. But listen, we've seen it weekend, innit? We've seen it weekend. The greatest Man United with the biggest history in the world, yeah? The best team, the treble winners, 99. They had the chance to stop Man City, the big bag team, the little team from Manchester with no fans, no history, plastic. They had the chance to put it all to bed, to go out there at Wembley and put Man City away and end this treble talk forever. And all you ended up with was a fucking free bucket off the Glazers. And we won the FA Cup. Simple as that. And that's the difference in class at Manchester City now to Man United. You all protesting about the Glazers, but you all sat there like, where's Wally? With your free Glazer bucket on.
I didn't.
You didn't, but the rest of it did.
I got integrity.
At the end of the day, they can call Man City all you want, but they didn't stop the treble. They didn't stop the treble. We've got to stop that treble. Ryan Giggs, David Beckham, even wheeled Alex Ferguson out before the game, telling us what they were going to do. Didn't happen, did it?
No, it didn't. It didn't. You know, it was a closer game than many people thought it was going to be, but you guys just had better players than us on the day. Your bench, obviously the people that started the game scored the goals, but the bench, what you had coming on, was stronger than what we had coming on. And the fact that the only way we were changing that game was bringing on an 18-year-old academy player is just testament to how poorly we've been run for a decade. Squad comparisons and the fact that we were at the beginning of a rebuild again for the fourth or fifth time in a decade. And Man United fans and the club have got to take their medicine on that. And like I've said before, we might sell. We might get new owners. We might not. There is a part of me that worries about us not selling because the fans still won't do anything. I'm seeing all these protests, full sell only, so Jim out if he comes in. But you'll all be buying the kits. It's all noise with a lot of Man United fans. Most don't have the ball bags. Legitimately, they don't have the balls. They don't have the courage. They don't have the backbone to do anything tangible to damage the club in the short term to get what they want. And yeah, so again, I've been calling this stuff out for years. I'm one of the only Man United fans I know from a social point of view that will do it. I've DM'd them all. I've tried to get them all together. Guys, let's put our ideas out there of how to get them out. No one wants to do the shows. I even said, I'll set it up, but I won't even be on it. There's people that have said, Terry, I don't want to do that because you might grow off my channel and I don't want that. I'm like, you're worried about business over your club. And it's crazy to me, but there we go. And you guys deserved it at the weekend as well. Like, no doubt about it whatsoever. You were the better team. We've got a long way to go. And as I said before, City get found out to be cheaters. You won't find anyone calling them out more than me. But until that point,
Terry, this is it. Yeah, this is it. All United fans, all the people in the chat, all they're clinging on to and praying to God for is that Manchester City are found guilty of cheating. That is it. But think of the other scenario. If they're found innocent, yeah, That's it. It's finished. If we win the treble at weekends, finished. All that history nonsense. Manchester City's recent history that we make now is better than some of the elite clubs' 100-year history. So there's only one team in this country won a treble, Manchester United in 99. Yeah? Manchester City could do that on Saturday night. And if that happens, then you can keep throwing your history at me, mate, because I've lived it. I've lived it. And all these mongs in the chat that were saying, oh, yeah, Big Steve, you keep talking about fans because you think you're the only one that goes to games. No, I'm not the only one that goes to games. I'm just letting you know that nobody in their bedroom can talk shit to me about being plastic and history because I've lived it. So you tell me another story that goes from Barnsley to the Bernabeu, from Ipswich to Istanbul, yeah? And from York City to Yekinkapi Square on Saturday night. So listen, if we lift that treble...
I feel, listen, and you know what's funny about the treble? I don't want you to do it for obvious reasons. I think a lot of rivals, though, top 6 rivals, are living in cloud cuckoo land. And I think they're projecting their fears and their worries by using it as a kind of stick to beat Man United with. And my view of it is very simple. I'll be gutted if you guys match our achievement. But that's all it will be doing is matching our achievement. There'll be some recency bias around it because it's fresh in everybody's mind, but we've done it. You guys, legitimately, you guys having a treble doesn't take our treble away. But it's the Chelsea.
Doesn't. Do you know what the difference is? Do you know what the difference is between your treble and our treble? You won it first, yeah? We was in Division 2. We win it now. We've done the same as you. But there's one difference between your treble and our treble. You had the chance to stop our treble, and you didn't.
No, I understand that, and that there's some bragging rights in that. There's no doubt about it whatsoever. But from my point of view, I'm not even focused on that. I heard Beckham say, we did it first. Great, yeah, we got that. For me, what I keep hearing is Man United's history is going to be evaporated. I put a headline out the other day that Ian Ladyman put out that you guys doing the treble is like we have to stop it because it's the last barrier that's keeping our legacy in the game. Man United's legacy doesn't disappear because City are creating brilliant history. What I find really funny is the Chelsea and the Arsenal and the Spurs and the Liverpool fans almost celebrating Man United's downfall. And I'm thinking, hang on a minute. All they're doing is matching the greatest English team of all time. So you can put them as 1 or 2, but they're in the top 2. Man United remain in the top 2. You're celebrating another team surpassing you and becoming greater than you, achieving something you haven't done. It's very strange to me because that's the legacy we all strive for. So I'll be gutted if you guys do it. But equally at the same time, this notion, I've had people DM me, are you worried about United's legacy disappearing? My legacy will remain because I've lived that history. I went through it. I experienced it. I was at games that season. It was amazing. It will never be taken away from us. All I'm demanding is that my club continues to improve operations so we can get back to that level. That is what I'm focused on, not trying to downplay your achievements. Because even if somebody asks me, which one do you think is better? I'm always going to fight for Man United in that. I'm going to defend my football club. But what I won't do at any moment is slag off how you've achieved it or what you have done. Man United's, people forget how hard our cup run was that year, how hard our Champions League run was. You can't undo that because you can't rewrite history. So, look, from my point of view, if you guys do it at a weekend, it's going to be a massive and an amazing achievement. I'll congratulate you. I won't feel that, like, the one thing I won't feel is that my club's history has been evaporated. That's the weirdest claim to me, personally. This year from Surim says, I'm not going to lie, I want City to bust Case just to see the fumes. Yeah, if City get found innocent, there's going to be a lot of conversations that need to happen surrounding that. This here says, Steve, do you think City will slow down slightly when Pep leaves? Yeah,
of course it will, yeah. When you get rid of the best, it's hard to find the best straight away. You know that.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, unless you get... I don't even think there's a manager coming through right now who's anywhere near a Pep or a Fergie level. Personally, I don't. I think this is the world-class manager, but no one of their level, GOAT level. So there will be a drop-off if there's a manager not as good as him, because he's probably worth 20 points a year to you lot. Legitimately worth 20 points a year in the league just through his management style. So, and it doesn't mean you'll drop by 20 points because another world-class manager is probably worth an extra 10 points. So you'll net it off at 10. But there we go. You had the chance to stop it and you didn't. Yeah, hear it on that. I'll take my medicine on that, bro. You haven't heard me defend it. I'm gutted about it. I was disappointed at the weekend. But we move on. As I say, that's not a big an L though, as a team that's never done a treble. My analogy is this: imagine I'm worth £5 billion. Love my life, and then Steve is worth 10 billion. Like somebody with about 20 pounds in the bank, laughing at me, going, you're not the richest guy around anymore. But what are you laughing at, bruv? What? I'm still worth 5 billion. Like, you can't. It's weird to me. It's very strange. It's very, very strange to me indeed. But there we go. This here says Jordan is not a Gulf state. Now I understand that, but it's still in the Middle East, is it not? Or am I wrong? Is my geography off? I swear Jordan's in the Middle East. I thought it's in that region. Maybe I'm wrong. But there we go. Does Rice and Caicedo close the gap between Arsenal and City, or do they still need one or two more signings? Love the show, Terry, Arsenal fan from the States. Thank you, Jay. What is your take on that? There's a lot of talk that Arsenal will bid for Rice tomorrow night, Thursday morning, Friday.
Just seen a comment there. Didn't City play in the FA Cup in '99? So as if Man City, we're going to stop Man United in '99. We were in the second division, mate. We're in the second division. Now sort it out. That is how the comments in here today. I'm mad, mate. Mad.
Absolutely mad. I just saw that there. In terms of this super chat, do you think if Arsenal do sign those two players, they'll close the gap on you next year?
Listen, they're both quality players. If they get them over the line, definitely going to add to it. Arsenal wasn't a million miles off it this year. It was just that when it got to the business end of the season, they were a little bit naive. They've made every excuse under the sun why they didn't win the league. But listen, it was a bigger capitulation than Newcastle, in my opinion. It was a bigger, it was one of the biggest we've ever seen. And they're getting away with it now because people are not talking about it anymore. But listen, Arsenal had their chance this season. It was the best chance they're going to have for a long time. Arteta knows what he needs to add to his squad. He'll know where it went wrong this season. And if he thinks Declan Rice and Caicedo is the answer, then, we'll wait and see. But Manchester City are not standing still. Liverpool are not going to stand still. Chelsea aren't. United aren't. That's why I say it's all right adding the missing piece of the jigsaw, but then the other teams are going to add to their puzzle as well. So it could get a bit peak.
It could. I mean, it could. I think that those signings, will, as you say, will help. But it's also about how the current crop develop, the level they go to. One of the other players that's linked with a move to Arsenal, it's been about 2 weeks now since his link come out. ilkay Gundogan, brilliant at the weekend. Do you think they've got a chance in that deal, or do you think it will be between you and Barca?
The reason Gundogan wanted to possibly leave is not because of anything football related. It's a environment related thing. He likes to try other cultures. He likes to try other things. And listen, if ilkay Gundogan lifts the Champions League on Saturday night, what else has he got left to prove in English football? Nothing. He's done it all. So if he wants to go and sign for Barca and live that life in Barcelona and see out his career there, then good luck to him. I don't think he wants to go Arsenal. Why are you going to leave Manchester City, the best team in England, who he's captain of, who he's just won the Premier League and he's just totally destroyed Arsenal? Why are you going to want to drop down to Arsenal? I don't think it's a money thing because City can give him the money if he wants it. I just think he might want to change the scenery, same as Bernardo. Listen, Manchester City could win that treble on Saturday night. It could be one of the worst things on the pitch that happens to the club because you might get 3 or 4 of them who think, you know what, we've done it here now. Let's move on. You know what I mean? So as well as all the good things that brings, sometimes it could bring a few bad things. You lose Bernardo Silva and ilkay Gundogan in the same window, that makes City very weak. So, we have to see.
United went through something similar, really. And it's a little. The difference is that your treble could come at the end of a three-peat rather than the beginning of a three-peat. But Fergie, remember, announced that he was going to retire in the summer. I think it was of 2001, which was at the end of our sort of the three-peat period. When we won the treble, it was kind of, Peter Schmeichel had already kind of decided to leave, but we lost the best goalkeeper in the world at the time. 2 years later, the team for like 3 or 4 months prepared for Fergie to leave, and we kind of won the league, but we really fell off towards the end of that season. So when you lose some of your great players and your manager says that he's leaving, and this could be the case with losing players like Bernardo Silva and Gundogan, you may have a slight drop off next year. Those things can kind of happen because, again, you've done the three-peat, you've done a treble, some top players can leave, and sometimes it takes a little bit of time. Man United really took a couple of years after 2002 to really get back to being a good team. And then we had a 3-year period after that when a lot of our, when the Roy Keanes left and a lot of our star players were moved on, and it took a little bit of time to rebuild that team. Then we did another three-peat. So that I think that's when people talk about catching Man City. I think there's an element where you've just got to focus on yourselves. That's what I'd say to Arsenal. That's what I'd say to my club. We know how good City are. We know what they're capable of. We know what levels they've got to get to. So you've got to strive to keep getting better. But you can't go into a season thinking, oh, we're probably not going to win the league because City will win it by default, because you might not. You might have the season that Liverpool won the league. They deserved it. They won it by many, many points. But in that was actually, that wasn't a great year for you guys. You had a bit of an off season with some injuries. You'd won 2 back-to-back, and there was a little bit of a dip. So you never quite know how good you're going to be if you achieve this greatness, if those players leave. But I do agree with you. I cannot for the life of me see. I get why Arsenal want Gundogan, and I've seen them be criticised for it, which is mad. You saw what he did at the weekend. If you can have that player for 2-3 years in your team, Arsenal go to another level. He's clutch. He's a winner. He's genuine leadership and captain material. I just don't see why he does it. I just honestly don't. But Ornstein's reported on it, and Ornstein's got a very good track record, even when he kind of briefly mentions things. But there is a report that someone's actually sent me a DM to today. It's come from a Barca source who has said that it will be Barca or renewing at Man City. The Barca sources think that he's very much out it won't be Arsenal, but we'll see what happens. But you mentioned earlier that Arsenal fans like to make excuses. What's the best excuse you've heard from Arsenal fans for not winning the league?
The Queen died.
I got the. Look, we'll play the clip for the viewers. I only saw this today when you told me about it. I normally react to things on I do a reaction show. I didn't see this, so I haven't listened to it yet. I've got the clip. Let's take a little listen.
And there's various different reasons why we didn't win the league, and a lot of the traditional thinking will be, okay, there was a couple of VAR decisions, but for me, there's kind of 2 incidents or 2 times in history that probably weren't on the pitch, and the first one was the Queen dying. And just bear with me.
All right, I want to hear it. I want to hear it
on this one, because when you think back to it, we were supposed to play Manchester City on October the 19th. Our form going into that game, that was our 6th straight win in October. We were phenomenal. We were absolutely on fire. We had no injuries. City, the 2 games before that game would have been, they drew with Copenhagen and they lost to Liverpool. So things, sometimes the intangibles, we were unlucky. Of course, we can't predict that kind of incident. It was a once in a generational incident.
He has a point. Your form weren't as... Yeah, but go on. What are you saying?
Well, okay, the Queen died, but the Queen didn't make you lose to City 3 times this season. Didn't make you drop 2-goal lead at Liverpool. Didn't make you lose to Brighton. Didn't make you draw to Southampton. Didn't make you draw to West Ham. So enough of this bullshit now. Let's just not all Arsenal fans are like Julian. Julian has also said it was a one-horse race. Julian also said good will prevail over evil. Man City are evil. He also said that Man City are a financial abomination. So, I mean, this guy, I know it's hurting him and I know he's upset, but every excuse under the sun is coming out of him. He's talking out of his ass. So I just think, you can pinpoint any part of the season. We could pinpoint the World Cup and say, oh, well, the World Cup came at a bad time because we were just kicking into gear, and then, we just lost to Brentford, and then there was a World Cup and we had to break. So you just take it on the chin, man. He wasn't good enough. You bottled it at the end. You threw away 12 points in the title running, which is unheard of, and you don't deserve nothing. You can't blame people dying and games getting abandoned, because everyone's game got abandoned that weekend, everyone. So I'm sure there was other teams that were on good form and didn't quite get the result they wanted after that. But, you know, strange, man. Strange.
Look, listen, I get where you're coming from. I think for me, I mean, I moaned. I just don't want to be a hypocrite because I moaned about Man United's games being postponed, and I said at the time, back in September, October time, whenever it was, that it's going to create a bottleneck later on in the season, and I think that'll hurt us. It happened the year before with COVID cancelled games, where we ended up having to play. I think it was 3 or 4 games in 12 days, and it was that's ridiculous. They should have just let us play that weekend. So I do get it. However, briefly playing you, they should have won those matches in terms of who they were playing, their positions in those games. So I do kind of get it. Equally, if they'd have beaten those teams and still missed out because they lost to you, then fair enough. But I don't think mathematically that was the case. But yeah, I love Julian. Julian does have. I mean, this is also the guy that said the Champions League is just a glorified cup competition. The same guy who has said that winning the Carabao Cup means nothing. I can't wait to see whether he's going to Champions League games next year and going to Carabao Cup games, because why would you waste your money on glorified, unimportant competitions? You know, for me, I don't think you would. I personally wouldn't do that. You know,
I speak to him a few times. I have done, and he's a nice fella. But I think he wears his heart on a sleeve, and I think he just says things at mad times when he comes out of the ground and that. And I think when he gets home, he probably looks back and thinks, "Wow, why did I say that?" But that's just him, innit? They're not all like that, you know. A lot of them have admitted defeat, and a lot of them were humble and said, "Yeah, man, the best team won in the end," which is fine. But you know, Man City, we'd have lost the league like that, and we started coming out with shit like that. Do you think anyone's going to listen to us? Do you know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. You take it on the chin. They've had a good season. They were better than what they thought. You know, they ran it close, not quite close enough. And you say, look, we're going to come back bigger and better next season. We're going to make the right additions, and we're going to go again. That's all you need to say, and people leave you alone. But when they come out with shit like that, it's just wild, man.
Certainly is. Joseph says, man like Julian Van Levy. I like that. That's funny. D says, old news. Why are we slating Arsenal? Chat United this weekend. We've already spoke about Man United this weekend, my friend, and we've done 3 or 4 shows on that, my friend. Thank you. Funny thing about the Arsenal fan base is a lot of them aren't deluded, but AFTV makes it seem like they are. They all think like that. It's hilarious. Well, look, AFTV's got a lot that also challenge Arteta. I do want to ask you that question. Do you feel like you got Julian that defends them to that level? Do you think, for instance, people like Lee Gunner, though, are maybe a little bit too harsh in the sense of he has this kind of mindset of if you don't win the league, even if you won it a year before, your job should be on the line. You should be sacked. You should be out there. Like Arteta should be out there in press conferences calling all the players that are not very good shit, calling them out, saying they're rubbish. They shouldn't be at the club. He believes that there shouldn't be any tact, essentially. He believes the manager should be in press conferences, slagging off the ownership, demanding more money. Do you believe that that's how managers should behave? Do you believe that that's how you apply high standards? Or do you think there has to be a little bit more balance in it?
No, you can't do that. It's not the way forward, is it? Arteta's not that guy. He's not that guy that's going to go and do that. He had a really tough job at Arsenal. He came in there. He loves Arsenal to bits. He had problems in the dressing room. He had big stars like Ober and that who wasn't pulling the weight. But he couldn't just walk into Arsenal and start throwing his weight around as a rookie manager, because people wouldn't have had that. And what he had to do is he had to bide his own time. This is what I said years ago on the Big Six show, and they didn't listen to me. I said he's gone in there and he's got to bide his own time. He's got to get players that, trust him and players he can rely on. And what he did was he rid the storm out good. The fan base were wild. 1 minute they were up, then they were down, then they were this, then they were that. And he could have walked away, but he didn't walk away because he obviously believed in something. And then when like Ober and that didn't turn up for games, or he came late, and then Arteta had the excuse then to discipline him. And then the fans sort of understood it because he turned up late and things like that. Then he just gave enough rope to the players to hang themselves. And then it made it untenable for them. They had to leave. Then he started to bring his own people in. Then all of a sudden the dressing room's gone from a 70-30 split of people that weren't really sure on him to probably a 70-30 split of people that back him. And that's when the mentality changed. And then what he's done there can't be underestimated, because it was tough. And a lot of managers would have walked away from it, but he didn't. And he's won an FA Cup, and he's had a good season this year, and he's got them in the Champions League, and they finished second. They're going in the right direction. I know Lee's got standards for Arsenal Football Club. I know that, and I understand that. And I would never say he's wrong, because he's not. When you've grew up with a certain level of standards, then it's hard to get that level out. I've got mates at Man United that I've grown up with all my life, and they can't get their head around it now. So I get it. But I just think my point of view, causing panic and being negative and trying to rant and rave and split the fan base and all that, I don't think that does anyone any good. But, you know, only time will tell. I don't think you'd ever change Lee. If Arsenal won the league, Lee would find something to moan about, I think.
Look, I think Lee makes a lot of good points. I just think that sometimes he's too... The way of saying this. He's too pig-headed in his opinions, because it's about stretching your logic out beyond just a specific example. Does it work? So he says things like about Ten Hag, he should walk if he doesn't get all these number one targets. By that logic, Pep Guardiola would have left your club 5 years ago.
Yeah,
because he's missed out on some of his number one targets, and he would have walked away. It's almost like, well, if I say that way I can keep holding a manager accountable, because he may say the right thing in a press conference that we need to improve. But if he doesn't quit his job, if he doesn't get everything he wants, then he lied to us. Therefore, I don't want him at the club. But the problem is, all managers will have to do that at some point and kind of play politics and say they're happy with people when they're not quite happy with individuals, you know, and all managers have to, ironically, it's the name of their job, manage those situations. If every manager quit who didn't quite get what they wanted at every single moment, because they have high standards, no club would ever manage. You probably go through 3 or 4 managers a year at every single club. So you've got to kind of bide your time. And as fans, there's a quote that I heard once, and I'm not sure who it was about, but it was almost, sometimes don't take people too literally, just take them seriously. And I think that's kind of what, Lee isn't the only one. I just think there are some gooners that are being far too harsh. And then equally, there are others like Julian that make up crazy excuses, like Tyre back in the day, blaming the fact his team lost on it raining. I remember when Jorginho made that mistake at Chelsea, and they said, it's because the floodlights were too bright. It's almost like those are crazy excuses. But equally, you've got to look at the situation.
Problem.
Yeah.
They had a problem at Arsenal where they employed a rookie manager in Arteta. Tottenham went out and got Conte. The Tottenham fans were rubbing it in. And Tottenham got in the Champions League and Arsenal failed. And then the whole Arsenal fan base was going, why can't we get a manager like Antonio Conte? Because on paper, it all looked great at Tottenham. But then look how quickly it changed. This is what I'm saying. Arsenal could have panicked, got rid of Arteta, brought another guy in, started the process again. Could have had another 3 or 4 years just missing out. They didn't panic. And you've got to give the club credit for that. You've got to give them credit for it. And, you know, I always say, if you can see your club going in the right direction, even if it's small steps, try and step with it, because sometimes you can take a manager out of the equation, bring a big gun in, and it don't work out. You know what I mean? And look at Tottenham now, consider it compared to Arsenal. Nobody will go there. They're getting a manager from Celtic, right? Unknown. It's all right winning the league in Scotland and all that. It's all right, but coming to the Premier League is a different kettle of fish. Your main striker wants to leave, so you know, it's gone full circle. It looks like Arsenal's the team where they're on the up, and Tottenham are like, bomb's gone off.
Within, and the crazy thing is, as you say, that's within the space of 12 months. So you do need to be careful. And there's an interesting comment here that I want to read out, because I think it holds water, but it says, yeah, but Lee would say City are still winning things even without getting all their targets. Exactly. So Pep didn't get Alexis Sanchez. He didn't get Fred. He didn't get Maguire. He didn't get Jorginho. That was all near the start of this amazing run of 5 titles in 6 years, trebles, domestic trophies. If he would have quit 5 years ago when he didn't get some of his main targets, City wouldn't be achieving what they're achieving now. I'm not stating that Arteta is going to do what Pep has done, but it's the logic you have to challenge as opposed to the like-for-like comparisons. you sometimes have to stick with your guns, especially if your team is improving. And I'm not saying, by the way, Lee is wrong about everything he says about Arteta and what they have standards on. The problem is you can't apply the logic of Arsenal's situation on Man United and on City and on Brighton and on Bournemouth universally, because the club scenarios, budget, situations are in different places. What Arteta inherited wasn't a peak Arsenal team or even a very good Arsenal team. It was a club that was declining and falling apart. And yes, year one, he did worse than Unai Emery. But sometimes you have to knock something down before you rebuild it again. And unlike a tennis player or a boxer or an MMA fighter that can literally take a year or two out from actually fighting and rebuild themselves, you have to play every year. You know, idealistically, if Arsenal were a boxer, the first season, 18 months under the new coach and the rebuild and the change, they wouldn't have had a fight. They'd have done it all behind closed doors and then edged themselves back in. I mean, you know as well as I do, you're friends with Tyson Fury. There was no way he could have gone, right, I'm going to lose all this weight and fight, and got in the ring with Deontay Wilder 2 months later. I mean, he did it within a year, but he had to have practice fights, he had to train, he had to build himself back up again to be ready. And I think that all these nuances are missing within football fans. It's just, well, you should be able to go from being rubbish to brilliant inside 12 months. And there's no example in a top league in Europe of a team being where Man United were last year and also being average in the league for a decade, and where Arsenal were, where they've barely been in a title race for 20, going from that to being where City are now inside 12 months, 18 months, 2 years. It takes time to get to that level. And I just think that's why when that question was asked earlier around, can they close the gap? Yes. And now they have to start demanding trophies, and Arsenal fans will do that. But you have to contextualize every season. I think these sweeping statements of, well, if we don't win the league, you should sack the manager. What if you miss out on winning it by 1 point and you get 97, 98 points? What's the likelihood of another manager coming in and making you even better? It's very slim. So you can't. I think these sweeping statements are just are crazy to me. But that's just my take. This is Lee Gunner is a hustler. Don't take him seriously. He's an entertainer. Listen, I think Lee means a lot of what he says, if I'm being honest with you. I talk to him off camera and he repeats the same stuff. Unless he's a character within a character and he never comes out of it, he's very honest.
I think he honestly believes what he says. And I mean, and that's his opinion and he's allowed it. And so the thing is, on these platforms, if you go in a pub and there's 10 football fans in there and you sit down and have a 2-minute conversation with everyone, everyone's different. Everyone's got a different opinion. Some you're going to like, some you're going to not. That's exactly what we're doing on these. If you like Lee's content, watch him. If you don't. If you like me, great. If you don't. No one cares. Let Lee do his thing. He's got certain standards he wants. People can give you your opinion on it, but Lee will never change. That's just him.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you on that. Hey, Big Steve, I want to say I really like you because you seem to have massive respect for all clubs. I have respect for you and your club, is what O'Brien has to say here. The Queen died before we played Liverpool. It's also true. You could say but City was so heartbroken. They lost that game. You could say that. Thoughts on Zerbi replacing Pep eventually?
Don't know. Listen, that's a conversation that I don't think anyone wants to have at the minute, especially not me now. I think when the time comes, there'll be a list of people who the board... People got to realise that Man City went from Mancini, won the Premier League and the FA Cup, to Pellegrini, won the Premier League and the League Cups, to Pep Guardiola. So Pep wasn't the only one winning trophies at Man City. The two managers before him were winning trophies. So we just got to make sure we get somebody in who can continue doing what the last 3 managers have done. And that's the aim. Are they going to make a mistake one day? Probably. You know, will Man City drop off for a couple of seasons? Probably. But it's how you regroup and go again, and that's it. But at the minute, we're on a good run. We're not thinking about Pep leaving, and we just got to get the big one done Saturday.
There we go. Big up, gents, from the States. Thank you, King. He says here that, Steve, is Joshua Kimmich a realistic target? I think he'll do bits for you guys.
I don't know. He's played under Pep, obviously, I think, at Bayern, but we don't know with City. They keep things close to the chest, then all of a sudden, bang, they make a signing out of nowhere. So just expect after this weekend things to start rolling.
I hear you on that. I wanted to ask you though, because Big is it Big Ange? Is that how you pronounce his name? Big Ange is at Tottenham now. Their manager. Not gonna lie, didn't have any idea who the hell he was before they went in for him. On top of that, it's now reported today by Sammy McBell that Tottenham have an interest in the Man United skipper Maguire as the North London club press ahead with their summer plans following the appointment of the new head coach. So they've got the Celtic manager in to turn the tide, and their big target at the moment is Harry Maguire. Talk to me about your favourite club, Tottenham.
You know what? Why not? They've been in every direction possible. They brought in Mourinho, they brought in Conte, they brought in Nuno. They've gone down them roads, didn't work. Why not bring him in? He's definitely a man motivator person. He definitely seems to create a great harmony. He definitely can find a player. You know, some of the Japanese players he's picked out and brought into Celtic when nobody heard of him have turned out to be decent. And listen, if he can get Harry Maguire for cheap, Harry Maguire, let me tell you, is better than any of them Tottenham centre-backs. That includes fucking Romero for me. Because that Romero just fouls everybody and flies around like he's hard. He's not. Eric Dyer, shit. Sanchez, shit. So if he can go in there, get Harry Maguire, bring him to Tottenham and say, look, you've been a laughing stock for the last few years at Man United. You've got a platform here at Tottenham. Start putting it in like you did at Leicester and change your career around. Might just work. Might sound mad. Might work. Harry Maguire might come in and be fucking brilliant for Tottenham. Then again, he might come in and be absolute shit and we're all laughing our balls off. So it's just one of them things. Tottenham are at the 50-50 stage of life at the minute. It's 50-50 whichever way it goes. It can't get any worse at the minute. So it can only get better for me.
Maguire isn't as bad a player as people think he is. His first 18 months at Man United, he was pretty good. He's a player that Pep Guardiola was willing to spend 70 to 80 million pounds on. United just went a little bit more and he said no. It's whether or not he can regain his confidence. Equally, Man United, and I want to quote this out again, the Napolese press have been on this for a long while. They're stating that Kim Min-Jae will reportedly become a Man United player once he completes his South Korean military service this summer in a 60 million euro deal, so about 42 million. So Man United are looking to replace Maguire with a very, very competent centre-back for about the same amount of money that Spurs would be willing to pay or looking to pay for Maguire. But I actually think it could work out. We'd get a very good centre-back in Kim Min-Jae or very good potential. Let's see how he does in the Prem. But, you know, he raved about in Serie A. He looked very, very good at the World Cup as well. But United need to move Maguire on. I think, though, the last 18 months of Maguire, so much of what's gone wrong with him has been confidence. Like, his confidence is shattered to bits. And I think that for me... Yeah, and that's it. And look, there is an element of me that, and I'm not going to become a hypocrite and change my tune, some of his behavior in terms of not admitting he's got a problem, I think has led to it. Every time he comes onto the pitch for Man United, he looks an absolute mess. But I do think sometimes, what's the expression? A change is as good as a rest. And I think if he goes to a club like that, an arm put around him, you're going to be the main guy here. You know, they might get the Leicester guy back. If you get England's Harry Maguire, you're laughing. Legitimately, you're laughing if you get England's Harry Maguire.
I think he needs a quality centre-back alongside him as well. I think he needs a quality centre-back alongside him.
With some speed. You know, with a bit of pace. And I think that leaves him in a good sort of position like that. But look, I'm not going to lie. I love the idea of this deal. Because if we could raise anywhere between 30 and 40 million for Maguire and invest that in Kim Min-Jae, I'm not lying. I'm buzzing. I'm buzzing about that deal. And I'm saying yes to it every day of the week, no matter what. In fact, I don't even care if we don't get a replacement. Him leaving is a good thing for us. It's so sour. And I'm sour and bitter towards him because of I just think he's a real catalyst of problems for us. But I don't think that's ability. I think that's just his confidence is shot to bits, as I already said. Nabil here says Maguire can replace Kane. The amount of goals he scores, he doesn't have to prove himself. He's just the GOAT and should be worth 100 million. I see what you're doing there. Nabil. Alex United says Maguire gets bantered a lot, but honestly, the profile of player is good. There's a reason Pep wanted him before United. He could thrive in a 3 at the back. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm still a little bit unsure about the manager, but I think what you've said is very true. It's a really good point around they've tried so many other things and it hasn't worked. Do you think that his lack of experience, though, could be a problem? I know he's played in the Champions League with Celtic, but only having managed like Kangaroo Warriors and something.
Yeah, it's a risk.
It's a big risk, isn't it?
It's a risk, and Tottenham's risk at the minute for the last few years has not paid off. So it's a big risk. Me, I'd have gone down the safer route. I'd have gone for Graham Potter, personally. I thought he was doing all right at Brighton. You don't become a bad manager overnight. A lot of clubs were talking about him. He took the Chelsea job. He didn't really get a chance. He needs a restart. Tottenham's a big club. I think, but the one thing managers like Potter need is time. And that's the problem. And this Big Ange, he's the same. He's going to need time. But Tottenham, you look at Tottenham's squad, and it's not the greatest. It needs cleaning out as well. But I don't know. Tottenham's another one of them teams, a bit like Chelsea at the minute. They drain the life out of me when I think about it. So I couldn't even be a Chelsea or Tottenham fan. I just have a headache all the time with it because it's bad at the minute. It's bad.
Yeah, he's going to need... I think what will help give him time is if the football looks pretty. Spurs fans, excuse me for saying this, Newcastle, but they're like magpies. If it's shiny and pretty, it will distract them. So I think the problem with Conte and Jose and Nuno was when it wasn't quite working, because the football was so drab and boring and awful to watch, there was nothing to kind of sink your teeth into. And I think there's a lot of Tottenham fans, if I'm being honest, who are quietly happy to play pretty football and not win much, but just be, as long as the media and as long as the Sky Sports pundits and the BT pundits, when they turn the TV on, say, oh, they play a brilliant brand of football. I think a lot of Spurs fans are happy with that because there's no pressure on them. They're not the main attraction. They're kind of off to the side. You know, like they love being bridesmaids at weddings. You know what I mean? They get to walk down the aisle, but it's not all eyes on them. Do you know what I'm saying? They get they're involved, but the pressure's not on them. If it goes wrong, it doesn't matter. It's not your day, right? They love being the bridesmaids or the page boys at weddings. I think that's where this. I was thinking about it overnight. That is where this could work for Tottenham. Football's pretty, but they're 5th or 6th or 7th in the league. They're praised the brilliant football inside. They'll go for clubs that play worse football, but that are higher in the league, and that's where they'll be. That's where Spurs were my whole life. Good football, didn't do very much. Their fans kind of knew their place. They were comfortable with it. We were comfortable with it. It's all good.
I remember Tottenham. had Klinsmann, Popescu, Dumitrescu. They spent a few quid. They had a great team, yeah. And we were shit. And they came to Main Road with Klinsmann and all the boys, and we beat them 5-2. So even back in the day when they had all the dough, they were still getting levered off teams that should never have levered them. And that's what happens with them now. I think the Son is a great player, but commercially, that guy's so valuable to that club. When you go there and watch it, it's so valuable to them. And there's going to come a point where the playing part of Son is probably not going to be up to the standard of Spurs, but the commercial side of Son is going to be more valuable, and they're going to keep him. And Harry Kane, you've got the best striker in the Premier League for the last 6 or 7 years and not won a thing. You know what I mean? Every season, 30-odd goals, whatever, breaking records. They've just not built anything around them two. They had Son and Kane, great starting point. Right, let's build a foundation and get these guys playing. And they just never have. You look at some of the players, but players go there and get worse. Players that you think, oh, he's a good signing, they go there and get worse.
Yep.
Mourinho, he's a winner wherever he goes. He was brought in for a quick fix. He got into a cup final. He sacked him before he even got a chance to win it. He'd have probably beat City in that cup final because Mourinho's like that. And then they get Conte, who looks, I've never seen a manager look as unhappy as him ever. He was literally one result away from walking out any time. He was just not, he wasn't interested in building anything for the future. He wasn't interested in building a legacy or getting youth in. He just wanted here and now, take the dough. And the board at Tottenham and Daniel Levy, they are the problem there. They are the problem there because they've tried every type of manager, winners, younger managers, Conte. They've tried them all, and none of them can get it right. So for me, the background is where it's at Tottenham, and I think similar to what's happening at United. United this year have been different. They've had a good season, but for years the background and the structure from the board down to the playing staff has been shit, and I think that's what's happening at Tottenham.
I couldn't agree with you more on that. It's always, listen, if you're when you look at Bayern Munich right now, yes, there's question marks over Nagelsmann, there's question marks over Tuchel, but who got sacked? The members of their board, members of the operations, because at the end of the day, I've had this fight in Twitter spaces on socials for years when it comes about Glazer conversations, but it's the manager, Terry. Yeah, great. Who employed the manager? When you've had 4 or 5 fouled managers on the bounce, it's not the manager's fault. It's the people that are making the decisions to hire. You run businesses. If you employ 3 managers, one after the other, every 18 months to run your business, and they all do a terrible job, you're the problem, Steve, not them. Because your ability to not find the right individual or to put in the right standards is where it's at. And Spurs are in that position. The problem that they've had, I think, Spurs fans, is they went from being that plucky underdog with, an okay stadium, great football, no one expecting anything. There was expectations around them. And I think that's why I said earlier, not all of their fans, because Expressions ain't about this. As an example, he wants to win. But a lot of Spurs fans, I do believe, are just kind of happy to be on the sidelines. No one really focusing on them too much because they know how they're run. And Patrick, one of the guys that comes on the Top 6 show, he called out this signing saying Big Ange is not the level that we want to be. We want a bigger and better manager. The amount of Spurs fans that have come for him. That's because
no disrespect, Terry. No bigger and better manager now. Yeah, he's looking at that Tottenham job and thinking, I want that job. Tottenham aren't that team anymore. Because there was that team, and when they got to the Champions League final and didn't work out, a couple of years after that, there probably was that team where you thought, you know what, underneath there's a decent side. If a big manager comes in, but if I'm an up-and-coming manager and I look at who's gone before me, Mourinho, Conte, and they can't get a tune out of that Tottenham, I'm staying well clear of it. Vincent Kompany would never take that job. They were saying, Vincent Kompany and all that. He didn't want it because Vincent Kompany knows that Burnley is a better place to cut his teeth than Tottenham. And Ange's probably thinking, you know what? I've done everything to do at Celtic. I'm going to take it. And let's not say that Tottenham was inundated with offers because, in my opinion, there wasn't.
Look, I think for me, they got to a point where they were looking at the Brendan Rodgers. It's a weird one because I think they were looking at Brendan Rodgers. That was reported a few weeks ago. Potter's name came up. They've been turned down by other managers, but they were very clever with the storyline, Tottenham. All their respected journalists or kind of transfer experts, every time a manager said no, or the fans reacted badly, the press within minutes or hours, we walked away. We were never interested. They're not on our radar. These stories are lies. And I think they've ended up in this situation. I think I'm going to speak to Patrick about it on the show soon. I think what his underlying issue is, we're so badly run. That's why we've ended up with Big Ange as opposed to a top-class manager. And look, it might work with this guy. Who knows? We could be looking back in a year, 18 months, 2 years, and bloody hell, they've won a League Cup. They're back in the top 4. They're pushing towards a title challenge. And we could all be massively wrong. But I don't care what listen, they're going to lose Harry Kane as well in the next 12 to 18 months.
That might be a blessing, though.
You
that
think?
Might be a blessing. Yeah, because, look, they've had Harry Kane for how long? What have they won? Fuck all. What have they achieved? Fuck all. What have they ever done with him? Nothing. So maybe it's time to freshen it up. Maybe it's time to say, look, we're going to sweep out the decks here and we're going to start again and we're going to try and build something. We're not going to cling on to what we had. We're going to build something. And then I think the fans could get behind that. You know, if they came in and said, you know what, we're getting Harry Go, we get the money in, we're going to invest it in the squad in other departments, we're going to invest it. And then all of a sudden you brought a young, exciting squad together and started to at least go in the right direction. I think you could buy that. But at the minute, Spurs are not that. Spurs are just Harry Kane. It's going to get you 30 goals this season and you're going to be floating around from 7th to 4th. And if you get top 4, great. If you don't, then you're in the Europa League. And literally that's it. That is it. There's anything else about Tottenham than that. There's nothing to excite them. There's not any player you want to... Tell me a player that gets you excited for Tottenham. where you think, can't wait to go to White Hart Lane at weekend to watch him. And it's not Harry Kane. We know what Harry's about. He's a great player, but you ain't paying big dough to see him. You know what I mean? And they've just got no superstars. It's just a place at the minute that's just very, very grey. I just think it's a grey place. I was there. Tottenham beat Man City every season. 100% at that ground. We can't score a goal there. That is nailed on. I go there because it's a nice stadium and I get to look around and look at the scoreboard. But I know we're getting beat. So their season is beating Man City, I think. But yeah, Tottenham's got a problem. I'm not even trolling. Some of my best mates, Toby, expressions at Spurs. And let's just hope that this guy comes in and he's a breath of fresh air and he can sort something out at Tottenham, but definitely a 50-50.
Yeah, it's going to be a very, very interesting one indeed. Terry, honestly, I've seen Steve talk a lot more sense throughout this panel, throughout the panel on Straight Facts. Big up. That's from a Kit. Absolutely. And listen, the Straight Facts panel is growing. Big Steve's here, of course. Lee Gunner's on. Sam is now here. Man like Saeed is joining in about a month.
I think you've got a good mix, man. I can't lie.
We've got one more joining. We've got Sava, the Spurs fan Sava, also joining the Straight Facts team as well. And some really good voices and really good opinions. And that's what... So someone said to me the other day, goes, why some days, Terry, do you guys cover the same subjects 2 days running? I'm like, because the show is about different people giving differences of opinions. And sometimes there is an overlap. But I agree, mate. Really good. And everyone's different from each other as well. And we will be doing some shows where we kind of merge everyone together with sometimes 2, sometimes 3, sometimes 4, all together doing shows when things are being said as well. And I will be asking the panel about their opinions on what each other have said as well. So there's a bit of a synergy in terms of what we're doing. But thank you, Kit, for that lovely super chat. Hi, Terry. Good work with the consistent live shows. Big up to the guests. Always love the most of what he has to say. Fair analysis most of the time. Yeah, other than when he's talking about United. No, I'm joking. He's honest on most things. He's honest on most things. In fairness, with the FA Cup final, City fans were the most, barring a few crazy ones online, City fans were more honest about how Man United were in the final Saturday than rivals. Rivals, you got battered, you were crap. Every City fan I've spoken to was, you were hard to break down, made it tough for us, made it difficult. Most City fans are quite honest like that, to be fair. This here says, Ange's player ID comments is rubbish. Stats, 2 seasons he signed 25 players at Celtic. Of course, a few players would work. Well, we will see. Right now, it looks like he wants Harry Maguire. Let's see if it works. I hope. I don't care if it works or not. I just hope it happens. That's me personally. Listen, viewers, I want to say a big thank you to all of you, all the super chatters. Thank you, Steve. Always a pleasure to speak, mate. We'll be back again next week. Enjoy, mate, Istanbul over the weekend. Obviously, I hope you don't win. I'm not going to change that, but I hope you have a good time and a safe journey anyway, mate. All the viewers, make sure you hit the like button before you leave and subscribe. Until next time, take care. Goodbye. God bless. And we'll see you all again.